Hey, what's up, y'all? So, as you guys know, a while back I looked at the last Star Wars movie, and I gave my thoughts on it. And there was some disagreement, obviously, which is fine. But I wanted to try and put some more thought into it and kind of just really process, like, oh, okay, is it me coming into it with like a recency bias? Am I really giving this movie a fair shake? And so I gave it a few days, contemplated it, thought about it, looked at it, and as I continued to think about it, I'm doubling down, y'all. The movie's still trash. The movie is still a mess. It's still a mess. Like, I took the time, I thought it out. I got some notes in front of me right now. I got a little review thing, I guess. It's in three different sections. One's the pros, one's clearly the cons, and then there's like a middle of the pack thing. I'm just gonna let y'all know, to be honest with you, it's gonna be almost impossible to talk about this movie without mentioning the second one because the second one impacted it so heavily that it's not the reason why the movie is bad, but it definitely is one of the reasons why a lot of these plot elements just don't make sense and don't mesh well together. So with that being said, I'm just gonna go into it. I'm gonna try and make this as short as possible, but I got a really long list. And one section of the list is longer than the others. So the first thing I want to start off with positivity. There are some pros in this movie. Even though I think this movie is terrible, there are some pros to it. The music was awesome. There were some really good moments where the music, when it swelled at the right time, when it brought the right emotional impact for certain points of the movie. It at a certain moment in time made me forget that I was watching a dumpster fire in front of my face. The fact that the music was able to do that to me, and I love music, speaks volumes about how impactful it was. And the composer who was responsible for that, thumbs up for me. Music was great. The effects were on point. They had a really good budget. Disney, for all of the flack that I've given them for how they've handled this intellectual property, they are able to pump a lot of good money into this product. And I would assume that they did believe in it. Like, they didn't just have it as like a throwaway project, like, we'll get to Star Wars whenever we get to it. Like, they dedicated a lot of time, effort, and energy with the money, the resources, providing it for these directors and writers to produce a good series of movies. I would believe that they believed in it. I wouldn't say necessarily that they knew what they were getting into or what they knew, if they even knew anything about Star Wars. I think they were more aware of the impact of Star Wars than the actual movies themselves because there was just a lot of questionable things, but that's a different movie for a different time. There were some interesting locations. They gave us some really interesting worlds and set pieces. Exegol, I'm actually okay with. At first, when I first saw it, and I saw Homeboy descending into this huge statuesque looking mausoleum, I was like, what is this? But then I thought about it, and when I think about like the Old Republic and like video games like that, and when I think about like the extended lore of what the Sith meant, the rule of two, all the things that have been prior to these movies been established as canon, it makes sense that there would be a planet like that. It makes sense that the Sith would have a culture like that, and I think that it's impressive, honestly, that they were willing to dive into that type of a space. So I did enjoy that. The Ben and Han moment, I actually really did like that. I will say that. I think that for that moment to happen, I don't think the timing of it was the best, but I think that the moment happening, period, I think was a good opportunity for Ben to no longer be Kylo, if that makes any sense. It was an emotional moment because it gave us an opportunity to finally root for Ben the way that I believe that the original creators of this trilogy wanted us to do. They wanted us to root for Ben at a certain point in time. I mean, they didn't really earn that. I'm gonna be honest. They didn't earn that because of how they portrayed him in the first and second movie. They didn't earn that, but it's nice to see a redeeming quality, at least, in the character. He has the ability to actually take his own agency, which was what we thought he did in the second movie. Apparently he didn't, but I appreciated that. I will say I appreciated that. I did like Finn, and I said this before in the previous video. I liked Finn. Finn was a character that from the seventh movie on, I was rooting for from the beginning. Like, I wanted him to be more prevalent. I wanted him, when they gave us that little tease with him with the lightsaber, I was geeked. I was like, yo, we're going to get a black Jedi that, for all intents and purposes, is actually an important member of the plot. Now, look, I love Mace, But Mace was a side character, and he wasn't, to be honest with you, he wasn't central to the plot at all. I mean, yeah, he had that moment with Palpatine in the third movie, but that could have been anybody. That literally could have been anybody. That could have been Yoda. That could have been the long neck girl guy, whoever the thing was. It could have been the dude with the weird face mask. It could have been any one of those people, and the effects still would have been the same. Now, Finn, on the other hand, was central to the character because he was one of the three main people that we were rooting for in this movie. We were rooting for, I can't even say I was rooting for Rey, but we were rooting for Rey, we were rooting for Poe, and we were rooting for Finn. It was nice to see moments where he was looked at and responded to the call to be a leader. The new First Order leader, the guy that basically took the place of Huck, that older looking dude, he was a nice change of pace as a First Order guy, and he got stuff done. Like, he didn't hesitate to kill Huck when he found out he was a spy, he was a snitch. I like that. It brought me back to how the original trilogy, how those guys were all about the business. Like, they weren't messing around. He was about it. Like, he was, you know what? We're not messing around with these guys. No, kill them. Kill them. Kill them. We're not playing around with these. Like, I like that. And then the last pro I had was Stormtrooper Girl. I liked Stormtrooper Girl. I liked her as a partner for Finn during this time, to be the encouragement, to be the support, and to at times be a leader in her own right, because she obviously was, because she was running things on that planet, as far as I know. And it was, I could have potentially saw her as a love interest, and I was okay with that. I mean, again, she came out of nowhere, but I liked the fact that she was a character that was capable, that was able to do things and not just completely rely on somebody else. She was a strong character. For what little we saw of her, I thought that she was a pretty strong character. So here's the middle of the pack section. So these are the things that weren't terrible. They didn't break the movie for me, but I mean, they weren't exactly good points either. They were like, meh. One was Rey's true identity. So I know in the second movie, they basically subverted the idea of Rey being somebody significant. It's whatever. I mean, I want to say I'm okay with that, but I don't like the second movie. I'm actually going to go back to what I said in the previous video. I said that I thought it wasn't a bad movie. I'm taking that back. The Last Jedi was terrible too. And it was terrible for a couple of different reasons. I might do a video about that. Who knows? But no, I didn't like that at all. But anyway, Rey's true identity being that she's the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine. Fine. It's an interesting take. It is stupid, and that's why I say it's a meh, because it's stupid, because first off, nobody in their right mind ever had the idea of believing that Palpatine was even interested in sex or wanted to propagate his line. As far as we knew, this cat wanted to be immortal. He didn't want to have an heir. He didn't want to have somebody take up his mantle. He wanted to be the one in charge. That's what we were led to believe from the beginning. And the fact that he has a granddaughter, not even the fact that he's a daughter, granddaughter, which means that he had children that had children. It doesn't, like, the idea of that being a thing in and of itself not only does it not make sense from a lore and fictional standpoint, it doesn't make sense for his character. Like, why would he want to or care about having a child? And why, on top of that, would he wait until at this moment in time when Rey is born to all of a sudden start wanting to do something about her? Apparently, the justification for that was, well, he saw her potential, he saw her power, he saw this, he saw that. Like, what is it? Who is Palpatine as a father? Can anybody make sense of that for me? Who is Palpatine as a father? Who is he as the person that we believe to be the epitome of evil? Where does he have the desire and intention to want to have children? Where does he get that from? You can't show me anywhere in any of the movies previous that he was capable of doing that. But now all of a sudden he does. And not only that, there's so many questions that I have about that I almost want to make this a con. But the idea of Rey being related to Palpatine, I guess, is a thing that we can add to the movie to create tension for Rey. So I guess I thought it was okay. But even when I think about it, it's a weak plot point, and it's not necessary for the overall narrative. We don't need Rey to be connected to an old trilogy character in order for us to feel like they have a genuine pull to the dark side. We've seen that before, even without that being the case, where people have been drawn to the dark side simply for the power it could provide or the opportunities that they could receive as a result of it. We don't need her to be related to the arguably most evil character in the Star Wars universe just so we can believe that she might potentially be tempted to the dark side. We don't need that. And the movies have never given us any type of indication that there's a genetic predisposition to being drawn to the dark side simply because your parents were. Case in point, Luke Skywalker. He was related to Darth Vader, who again was, if he wasn't the most, definitely 1A, the most evil character at that point in the series. And he turned out to be a good guy. Not only a good guy, but the guy who ultimately helped Anakin come back to the light. So there's no justification for that, to be honest with you. There's no way for us to believe that just because she's related to Palpatine that all of a sudden she's going to be that way. There's no way to say that, because the Force doesn't work like that. It does not work like that in any movie that we've seen up until this point. There's no way we can believe that. You guys, I'm sure y'all plenty y'all got some books or whatever. You show them to me, fine. But the movies tell me, which is the original canon, the originals, they have not given me the indication that is possible. So I'm not taking it. The lightsaber fights were decent. I'm actually going to roll back on what I said about the whole Knights of Ren thing. And I'm going to get back to the Knights of Ren in a second. But it was decent. It was decent. I'm not going to say it was bad. I'm not going to say it was good. It was decent. The moments weren't really as impactful. There weren't as many. There was really only, like, I think four lightsaber fights. And that was between Kylo and, Ben and Rey. But those parts weren't really all that good, to be honest with you. And, yeah, so that's it for that. The perspective of the Force. So the reason why I say the perspective of the Force, I'm okay. Well, I'm not going to say I'm okay, but I think it's interesting how they were offering new ways that the Force could be used. Like the idea of people connecting across galaxies, or not across galaxies, but across systems, and being able to, the desire to want to add abilities to the Force is something that I can respect. However, the abilities themselves are garbage because, again, they conflict with what rules were originally established prior to these movies. We had never seen before, and I'm going back to the seventh episode. We've never seen somebody stop a blaster blast with the Force. We've seen Darth Vader, but it was kind of believable to an extent, only because we've seen Darth Vader stop blaster bolts with his hands. So it's reasonable to believe that Kylo could do that. It's a stretch for me, but it's believable. It feels like a Matrix moment, but it's whatever. In this movie, and even in the second one, they just throw everything out. They throw every rule, every concept, everything that we've known about the Force completely out for the sake of spectacle and amazement. Lightsabers were designed, according to established lore, they were designed so that Force users could not manipulate them. I'm going to repeat that again. They were designed that way specifically so that Force users could not manipulate them. So why in this movie are we seeing not one instance, but two instances of Force users being able to stop lightsaber swings simply from the command of their hands? Where in any of the previous movies have we ever seen that? We've seen people pull lightsabers out of people's hands. That's fine, because it's a physical object. Fine. We've seen people grab lightsabers out of stone or out of snow. We've seen that. That's possible. It's fine. Physical object. We have never seen someone stop the blade with their hand. We've never seen that, and we weren't gonna see it because up until this point, it was an established rule that lightsabers could not be stopped physically with the Force. And now we see it. And that is stupid. It's stupid. And on top of that, the ability to transcend dimension doesn't make sense. As far as we know, again, from the movies, I got to keep coming back to the movies because that's our framework here. The most that you could do was sense a presence. And that's pretty much it. You could sense a presence. You could acknowledge a life form that you've previously interacted with. You could recognize those things. You could recognize good or evil in somebody. You could sense those things. It's more of like a sense of aura, more so than an actual physical, like I can see you, transcendental type of experience. The Force, prior to what we know, was not capable of doing that. Now it's capable of doing that. And not only capable of doing that, it's able to have you reach across the cosmos to pull physical objects out of thin air. We have never seen this before in the movies. Never before. And we're just supposed to accept it because force powers, and that is stupid. That is stupid. The force was never a means to justify ridiculous reality bending acts. It was a system in an established universe that gave people abilities beyond what was normally possible. That was it. It didn't give people the ability to bend time and space. The force was never that. It was, you could pick things up, you could apply pressure to objects, you could, I guess, according to my boy Palpatine, you could shoot lightning, you could project energy. That was possible. You could jump further, things like that. And if we're taking the games into account, you could heal, which again, I'm fine with the whole heal thing, it's whatever. But you could heal, you could slow down, your perception of time could slow down, whatever. That's fine. I mean, the time thing is a little bit whatever. I mean, it's more so speed up, not slow down time. But you accelerate your speed using the force. I mean, because it's interacting with the universe. It's interacting with the universe and abiding by its laws. It's just suspending or interacting with it in a different kind of way. Time and space are concepts that up until this point, we have not seen the force been able to manipulate. And what I mean by space, I mean like going from here to here. There wasn't instant transmission in the original trilogies, but this movie is going to expect us to believe that you have the ability to reach into an alternative dimension, go across thousands of light years to another space point in time, and take that and bring it back to your reality. There's no way. There's no way. You can't have a lightsaber battle over, you can't do, like, it doesn't, not only does it not make sense, it's not believable. Because then at that point, you're able to, you're bringing forth the questions of, if they could do that here, why didn't they do that there? Because if Kylo had the ability to interact with Rey from Jump Street and interact with her in that way, what point is there in even trying to meet her face to face? If you have the ability with your lightsaber to cause damage and harm to another person, if I was a Sith guy, why would I ever bother moving out of Exegol? I would just mentally project my image across space and time to be able to interact with and cause harm to somebody else. I would do that. I would not even bother showing up in person. One, because that's according to battle tactics, that's stupid. If you have the ability to interact with somebody and damage them without you taking damage, you're going to take that opportunity. Especially somebody like Palpatine, who up until this point we believed was capable of advanced battle tactics, simply because he was the supreme ruler of the universe or the galaxy, the known galaxy at that time. He didn't get there by luck. He didn't get there by chance. He got there by being conniving, by being manipulative, and also by being powerful. So someone like that, who has the ability to achieve victory and achieve it easily, is going to take that chance. So that it creates too much. And then the whole lightsaber thing behind the back and popping up. Look, it was cool. But that was it. There was no substance to it. It was a cool moment. But again, it draws the questions of why even bother showing up? You know what I mean? Like, if you can transport matter with the Force, there's so many questions with that. There's so many contradictions in that in the earlier canons that it does not make sense. And that's the thing that I guess is going to go into the cons later, but it just doesn't show any continuity between any of the previous timelines. This trilogy is a sequel. It is a direct sequel to the original trilogy. It's not an independent universe in and of itself with different rules and different regulations. It is supposed to continue the story that was already established beforehand by people that you prior to that had no interactions with. They established the rules. You got to abide by them. You can't just make up your own for the sake of making up your own. That's not how this works, y'all. That's not how continuity in a story works. That's not how consistency of a plot works. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. But anyway, I'm digressing at this point. But yeah, and it can't be the fix-all for all of your problems. Oh, Palpatine can't come back? Use the Force. What? Kylo has a problem, but Snoke has the ability to connect? Yeah, it's because of the Force. You can't do that. You can't do that. Sorry. We can't do that. And why can't... Well, Damon, why can't you do that? Because the rules were established. And in order for there to be consistency, in order for there to be believability, in order for there to be some semblance of a plot line, you have to have rules abided by that were already previously established. You may not like them. You may think that they're garbage with regards to the Force. The Force, because that is a thing that has the ability to do more than what is humanly possible. I'm not talking about philosophy here. I'm not talking about construct here. I'm not talking about organizations or status. I'm talking about a literal literal force that has the ability to interact with time and space, not destroy it for the sake of achieving an end, and that end only being to give you something flashy to look at. The Force was never that. The flashiest thing we had seen with the Force prior to these trilogies was Palpatine with the lightning. That was it. That was it. And that was meant to be impactful because prior to that, we had never known that the dark side was capable of such power. So it was to give us the indication that this threat that we're facing is way more than what we thought. We thought it was menacing before, but with the ability to shoot lightning, it gives the character of Palpatine not only more intimidation as a character, it gives us more mystery as to what else he was capable of with the Force. And what I mean by that, and I know you guys are already going to try and go back and say that I'm refuting my previous point. I'm not. Because even in that, it had rules. Because if these abilities that are here now in these trilogies are a part of the established canon, they would have been in the original. They would have been in the original. Palpatine would have did those and did them ad nauseum as many times as he could. He could have trained. If he wanted to get rid of Luke from jump, he would have killed him immediately. Because if the ability to transcend dimensions was an established and understood rule in the Force, it would have been something that Palpatine would have manipulated ad nauseum as many times as he could. Because Palpatine, although he likes to play the long game, although he likes to play that manipulation role, he will, if need be, destroy somebody if they're not going to help him achieve his ends. And the very second he saw Luke not doing what he wanted him to do, doing whatever, it would have been a wrap for him. Transcend dimensions. You're gone. You're done. You're done. Or on top of that, no, that's it. It's just that simple. If those were rules that we had already if it had already been established prior to this, nobody would have a problem with them. It's the only problem is they're making up rules now, and they're not doing it fairly. They're doing it not for a reason, not for a purpose, not to help establish the lore, create a more enthralling universe. They're doing it for spectacle, and that's what diminishes the experience for me. And these middle of the pack things sound like cons the more I say them, but it is what it is. And then the last middle of the pack point, Huck being a spy. I'm okay with it. It's not really justified. It's not, because of who we thought Huck to be in the first movie. Why would he all of a sudden randomly choose to align himself with the rebels? Simply just get rid of Kylo. That doesn't make sense. I mean, it does because the second movie forced us to have to make sense of it, but it doesn't make sense in the overall narrative because Huck was never the person to... He would never have allied himself with the rebel force simply for Kylo to be gone. Like, he never would have did that. I mean, anyway, but that's beside the point. It was an interesting surprise, though. When I saw it, I was like, what? But it wasn't justified. They didn't earn it. And now, the cons. I'm going to try and keep this a half hour. I'm going to try my best. But there's a lot to talk about here. So, I mean, do what you will. The cons. First off, plot was rushed. They were doing more, and I could tell for a fact that this was what happening. They were doing more to correct The Last Jedi than they were to tell an actual story. You could tell. And my boy JJ wants to give all the, no, we were planning for this the whole time. But, dude, you see from Jump Street, he was doing everything he could to make sure that The Last Jedi made sense. And also still continue with the plot line that he originally intended. You could tell. You could tell with the whole Snoke thing. He was trying to justify The Last Jedi with the Snoke thing about him being a clone. You could tell when Luke grabbed the lightsaber and said this should always be treated with respect. Complete refutation of the second movie. You could tell. You could just tell clearly. He was trying, well, not even just JJ, the homeboy, the director they had working on this one. They were doing everything they could to correct The Last Jedi. And not by correct it, but have it make sense and then also make sure that their story falls through. You feel it. You can feel it from jump. It was 2.5 hours long, and it felt that way. It felt like I was watching two movies. With a third movie that I never got to see. Because it was turned into a different movie. Yeah. So that was my thing on that. It cramped too much into one movie. And even with it cramming it all that in there, there was still so much more that we didn't understand. There were so many things that happened between the second and third movie that we were just expected to know, but we have no recollection of knowing. And it just kept happening, kept happening, kept happening. Oh, this is this is that, this is this is that. There's a wayfinder now. Where was the wayfinder? How? And then all of a sudden it's going to tell us, oh yeah, Luke was looking for this from the beginning. What are you talking about? He was looking for him from the beginning. It never told us that. Even in the second movie, he never mentioned that. All he mentioned was that he failed as a Jedi Master, and because of that, he's going to a place to die. Which I'm actually going to add a con. Luke's character was assassinated in this movie. Not in this movie, I'm sorry. In The Last Jedi, it was assassinated. That's a con for the previous one. But his character was completely assassinated. And, like, again, he was looking for the Wayfinder, and he couldn't find it. But Rey manages to find it? But Rey manages to find it? And they find it on the same planet that Luke was on. And Luke has the ability to sense presence. He knows that he was still there. Like, it's ridiculous. How is Rey able to sense that homeboy was still there, but Luke wasn't? That doesn't make any sense. Luke has been there for years. He was an OG in the game, baby. He was there with the Force before Rey was even born. How does he not have the ability that Rey has instantaneously? This is almost as bad as Anakin being a Christ figure gone bad. This is almost as bad as that. Well, no, it actually is worse. I'm going to say it. It's a hot take, but I'm saying it. It's worse than Anakin being the chosen one. This girl is just God in the flesh, and there's nothing we can do about it, and it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. So how is Luke giving up? Because apparently the third movie is telling us that he was looking for this assassin for whatever reason, because apparently he had the thing for the Wayfinder, couldn't find him, and gave up and decided to go to a random planet and die. That doesn't make sense. That's not who Luke is. And it could be possible, and I'm gonna shoot some bail here. It could have been possible that if the second movie played out the way that my boy JJ wanted it to, Luke could have been out there still looking for the Wayfinder. I still don't agree with it, only because of that. I don't want to get off the rails. But what I'm saying is, how are we supposed to believe that? Well, we haven't seen it prior. You gave us no indication of it, and you're going to tell us randomly that it's because, oh, he was looking for the Wayfinder and just couldn't find. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's stupid on top of that. And I'm going to get to that dagger. I almost got 10 minutes for that dagger, but that's beside the point. Next point. Rey's extremely overpowered Force abilities. It's nonsensical, guys. It's nonsensical. How was someone who, up until this point, had no idea that the Force was even something that she could tap into, all of a sudden has all of this limitless potential? Doing freaking Jedi mind tricks off the gate, being able to transcend dimension just as well as Kylo does, being able to transport different, like being able to stop Emperor Palpatine. Being able to stop Emperor Palpatine. I don't know, man. I'm sorry. You gotta do more than that for me. It's crazy. Her powers were ridiculous. They were ridiculous. She shot lightning out of her hands, guys. Now, I can't really knock that too much, only because it's believable. Like, if you're angry enough, you could tap into the dark side to achieve an end. I get it. But still, like, she was doing some crazy stuff. She knew how to force heal. How does she know how to force heal? And again, that's not something we saw in the previous movies. We didn't see force healing. We never saw that. We saw it in the games. Yeah. But that was never established canon. Force heal was never an established canon. As far as I know. I could be wrong, but again, even if that is the case, even if it is established canon, how does she have the ability to tap into that? For me, as far as I know, that's not an entry-level skill. Being able to heal somebody from grievous injuries, and even Kylo being able to take Rey back from death, is in and of itself, it's crazy. It's crazy the abilities that these guys have. And it's, again, Rey doesn't follow the rules. She doesn't follow the rules. Nobody's following the rules in this movie, but Rey especially. You have that much ability after, and it doesn't look like you've been training for long, because you're still wearing the same clothes that we saw in the first movie. Like, you couldn't have been training for that long for you to have the ability to have that much power. And you're supposed to tell me that Leia is a Jedi Master now? Like, where does Leia have the ability to do this? Even in the second movie, I was amazed But the more I thought about it, the less sense it made. Like, how does Leia have the ability to do all this stuff? I mean, it's possible she could have been training with Luke. I mean, I get that, fine. But still, it gave us no indication that they were training together. And even so, how can you progress so much doing just that one thing? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Another thing, they copied the original trilogy beats and they did it poorly. It was just bad. So many times where it was just copied and pasted bad, y'all. It was bad. Nostalgia overhaul. They relied on nostalgia too much. The plot holes. How? For all of you guys that thought that this movie was good, please explain to me how Palpatine is alive. You can't defend that for me. You can't give me any reasonable line of logic that betrays my intelligence as a human being. How is Palpatine, who died, he died. He was dead. Even in the movie, it said he was dead. He died in an explosion. That died in an explosion. How is he still alive? How? And who are the people? Keep in mind, the Death Star blew up in space. It blew up in space. And unless you're telling me that Palpatine covered himself in force shielding and was able to withstand the impact of an explosion upon an explosion, survive the cold, dark, twisted space plate, the cold chasm of space, and somehow managed to be able to be found and revived. Like, you have to go into your own head canon and find ways where that makes sense. And if you have to do that to justify a character coming back from the dead, then it's not a good plot point. It's a plot hole because it doesn't make sense. Again, only because we have had no indications that the Force was capable of doing that. It doesn't make you God. The Force doesn't make you God. And that's what I think the Disney people just didn't understand what the Star Wars movie was, like the Star Wars universe was, because the Force doesn't give you that ability. If the Force made you God, the Jedi Order would still have been around. It would have never have gone extinct. The Force was a mechanism. It wasn't even a mechanism. The Force was believed to be an entity that was capable of I already said it. I'm not gonna keep repeating myself. It's wild. Who were the people that pulled him out of the wreckage? Who were the people that found his body? How is his body not absolutely ash, space ash? Who was able to find him? Who found Exegol? Because according to what we understand about Exegol, you can't find it through natural means. You have to be able to do it. And Palpatine, unless he planned for his death, which I don't think he did, he would have had to have told them how to get there. And he was dead. He couldn't have told them anything. You can't give me the Force crap. Because, again, his physical body exploded. And George Lucas himself said, Palpatine is absolutely dead. How is he still alive? And how does he have a granddaughter? He was dead. Where did he find the time to have children? And why were these never mentioned in the previous movies? Well, because Palpatine wanted to keep it a secret? For what? For what reason would he have to keep it a secret? He is the supreme leader of the universe. Oh, so an assassin could kill him. You mean the person, who has the ability to trick Emperor Palpatine? Who has the ability to trick Emperor Palpatine? The only reason why Palpatine lost was because Anakin had a change of heart. That's the only reason. That's the only reason why he lost. And even then, he still killed Darth Vader in the process. You can't tell me that. You can't give me that, y'all. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. It's stupid. Y'all, just accept the fact that it's dumb, man. It's wild. It's wild. So anyway, back to what I'm saying. How did he amass such a huge fleet with nobody noticing? The Republic. It just makes the Republic look so incompetent. It makes them look like they had no idea what they were doing once Emperor Palpatine died. Because how were they not able to notice an entire fleet? And that's resources you gotta find. That's labor that you have to enlist. That's the space, time, and ability to do so. How is nobody gonna notice an entire armada of supply ships and construction equipment moving to a random part of the known universe? Who's not gonna notice that, and who's not gonna start doing some digging? You can't give me that. You can't give me that. That doesn't make the biggest point that I'm focusing on. How did they get his body? How did they get his body? How did they get it? How are there thousands of ships, Star Destroyers with the ability to destroy planets? Where did they get the technology for that? The Death Star was not, this movie is not hundreds of years in the future, where technological advancement like that is considered plausible. Bro, it's 30 years after it's only 30 years after the Return of the Jedi, and I'm speculating it could have been even less than that. After the Last Jedi, where did it? And again, why did we not see it before? How does Palpatine have such deep scientific intellect that no one else has? He's not God. He's not God. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And you got to try it. You got to try it, and you're gonna fail because you can't do it. You cannot prove to me beyond a reasonable doubt that Palpatine was capable of coming back to life. You can't prove it. You can try, but you'll look stupid doing it. You can't do it. You can't do it. And you can't give me some obscure, oh, well, in the book, the books aren't canon no more. Sorry. You might have had a point. But these new trilogies did everything they could to make sure that established lore, that extended universe canon is no longer canon, baby. Can't use it anymore. It's gone. So you can't give me that. If there's a book out there that says you can do that, it's not real. It doesn't exist anymore. It's in an alternate universe where we actually cared about consistency in Star Wars, and then prequels. I'm not gonna get into that. But anyway, next point. Rey is a weak character. She's just a weak character, guys. She's too good. Too good. She doesn't have any flaws. She doesn't have any flaws. What are her flaws? That she wants to be loved by a father figure, and that she believes in good in people. That's not a flaw. Those are virtues. The first one can't even consider a flaw. She doesn't have daddy issues because she immediately trusts some random old guy that she just met. Not daddy issues. Can't say that. Abandonment issues, maybe. But we never saw that. We never saw it. But anyway, besides the point, she's a weak character. And then on top of that, what kept baffling me about the entire thing is why did she keep leaving the crew? There were 3 or 4 different times where I saw her at pivotal points in the movie just randomly leave them. Why? Why is she doing that? Why is she doing that? And then on top of that, and this is the part that blows me, why is she going back to the planet that Luke was on to try and become what Luke was? A hermit. She literally in the last movie was chastising Luke for doing that exact same thing. So why is she doing it? Why is she doing it? Why is she going off and trying to be something that she criticized Luke for not even 5 minutes ago, saying, you were right. I'm going to do what you did. That is stupid. It's just stupid. That part where homeboy Chewie got captured and she's just randomly walking off in the desert. If I was Finn and Poe, I would have been pissed. And that would have been the first thing I said to her when she got back in the ship. What were you doing? You don't realize that we were being chased? We had to go. Chewie was being captured, and you're out there trying to figure. And then the whole thing with homeboy and the fighter. She ran out there. Think about this. She ran out there to turn her back to Kylo, to run. Chewie's being captured, by the way, to run. And with her lightsaber, jump over a speeding TIE fighter, cut one of the wings off. And apparently she knew that Kylo was going to survive because she was not phased when homeboy came out of that wreckage to blow up his ship. Yeah, where was Kylo at? And why was he there? Why was he there? And why is she looking for him? Why does she care about Kylo at this point? And then in the second movie that we pretty much established that homegirl didn't want to have anything to do with, why is she there? Why is she looking for him? Why is she not running away from him? Why is she not trying to save Chewbacca, who just got captured? It's stupid. And then they're all trying to come up with a plan as a group on that planet with the high waves, and she just randomly goes off on a skimmer. To that point, again, Rey was on a desert planet. She had no interaction with water prior to these movies. So how is she able then to take command of a ship that's going thousands? It feels like thousands, not literally thousands, but hundreds of feet in the air with waves. How is she not scared to death? How is she not worried? And why does nobody look at her like, yo, what are you doing? We didn't even come up with a plan and you're running off. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, man. And again, her reasons for isolating herself were so unjustifiable. Because you're related to Palpatine, that's it? Because you're related to Palpatine, now you want to say that it's all hope is lost? That doesn't make sense. How does your relative dictate your future? How does he do that? How does he do that? This ain't no monarchical society where your birthright determines your status in the caste system. And even then, it doesn't decide your fate. It still doesn't decide your fate. Anyway, I'm digressing. But still, the fact that she left because simply she was a granddad, her granddaddy was evil, stupid. If anything, that could give her more motivation to want to face Palpatine, because now it's trying to correct and finally redeem the Palpatine line. We don't even know his first name. Anyway. Oh, she came off as a hypocrite. She told Luke, we need you, come back to the fight. And now she's saying, I'm doing what you did just like you. She's justifying his decision. And you can't give me well, now that she sees what she's capable of, now she kind of resonates with Luke. Bull crap. That's bull crap. Even in the reasoning, Luke left because he felt useless. Rey did not feel useless. She was useful. She was the last good Jedi. Apart from Finn. She was the last good Jedi that we had. She was, according to what the movies told us, our last hope. She was not useless. Up until this point, she hadn't failed. She succeeded in dang near everything she tried. So how was she at this point saying all hope is lost? She was one of the people saying that hope is still alive. It doesn't earn any of these things. It just doesn't and expects us to take it for what it is. That's stupid. Stupid. God, there is so much more, y'all. There is so much more. Finn was underused the whole series. His maturation could have been handled better. Rey taking Skywalker's name, unearned. Why are you doing that? That point in the movie, you could have had the chance to accept your identity. I understand you not wanting to be related to Palpatine, but whatever. You had a chance to say Palpatine. You had a chance to do it, and you instead took Skywalker. Why? For what reason? You don't know the people. You don't know anybody. You know Leia. That's about it. But you never really saw her as a maternal figure. You never saw Luke as a father figure. So why are you taking their name? For what reason? Why are you taking their lineage? Because Kylo died? Or because Ben died? Then why didn't you let Ben live? And let him be the Rise of Skywalker? Why is she the Rise of Skywalker? She's not even related to them. That doesn't make sense, y'all. The more and more you think about this movie, the more and more frustrated I become. Because it takes one random character, Rey, and takes her, makes her God level, and has her stomp on all of the previous things that the previous movies tried to establish. It doesn't make sense, man. The shoehorning of old characters into the essential plots of the story, man. You're fan servicing me to death. And you're doing it at the expense of your plot lines. Why is Lando on this random planet? Why is he there? And then why are you telling me that you and Luke were looking for this guy? Why are you letting... Y'all. And then Lando comes in and saves the day. I can't deal with it anymore. C-3PO. I still don't understand why C-3PO had to be in there. R2-D2 was basically non-existent. He wasn't there the whole time. I can't. I'm tired. The last part... There's so much more. I'm gonna have to do a part 2. Because I'm running out of... I can't. I'm sorry. Why can't C-3PO tell him the Pathfinder location? Why is that not... Why? What? He's forbidden to translate Sith language? How? Why? If anything, if I was the Republic, I would have droids that be able to do that all the time. Because that gives the Sith the ability to create secret messages and transport them all across the galaxy, and nobody knows anything for the better. To not have a droid be able to decipher that language, or apparently he has the ability to decipher it, but he can't tell anybody about it, is stupid. How is nobody else seeing that? It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. Y'all, come on now. I'm talking to somebody out here that doesn't make sense. Why? Why? For what? The only reason why it's that way, sorry. The only reason, my things are jiggling, so if you, my glasses are jiggling, so if you can hear that, I'm sorry. But the only reason why that's there is so that